Far too often we hear about torture in countries like Syria and North Korea, but it's much closer to us. Tonight we expose cases of torture in Venezuela. The Obama administration recently issued sanctions against 7 Venezuelan government officials, accusing them of human rights violations against their own people. But who are the victims? And what are their stories? Fusion's Mariana Atencio takes us inside Venezuela's most secretive underground prison in this special report.
Vivo con miedo, con angustia. Es más, estamos haciendo esta entrevista y yo tengo miedo para ir vigilando, que es lo más seguro.
This is the fear Venezuelans live with every day. Yamile is the mother of 26-year-old Loren Saleh, a student leader during the protests last year, now in the custody of the Venezuelan government.
Hoy vengo saliendo de la visita me siento muy mal.
He's accused of conspiracy to rebellion, among other crimes. Loren also once spoke at a neo-Nazi event. Yamile denies the government's accusations.
Aquí la violencia tiene nombre y apellido y se llama régimen venezolano.
Loren's arrest was part of a government crackdown against student protests that broke out last year due to massive food shortages and high crime. At least 43 people lost their lives, most of them young protesters. Here, memorials to the victims have replaced protest barricades. Today, Venezuela's economy has slipped into a deeper depression, and the government is using extreme measures to crush another potential uprising, even passing a decree allowing deadly force to repress any protests.
La juventud no pueden salir a manifestar. Oye, pueden caer muertos, pueden caer detenidos.
Young people like Loren are held here at the headquarters of Venezuela's intelligence agency, hidden inside what human rights activists call the most oppressive prison in the country. Here, it's known as La Tumba, or the tomb.
Hasta aquí la celda, esta es la visita.
Fusion recreated the tomb based off of interviews with family members like Yamile who have been there. Located 5 stories deep below the ground, it's easy to see why they call this place the tomb. There are no windows to the outside world, no natural air flows through, and temperatures can reach frigid levels. The only sound is the deafening rumble of the subway trains passing by. After going through a metal detector, men and women are separated and strip-searched. Every move is carefully monitored, using double-sided mirrors and around-the-clock security. Farther down, detainees are held in a corridor with 7 cells, each measuring 6 by 9 feet, about the size of a large closet. Like the rest of the prison, there is no color, just white walls and black floors. Detainees sleep on a cement bed. There are no bathrooms inside, so prisoners need special permission to be taken out. The wait can last for hours. Family members say their loved ones easily lose sense of time here. It's only when the sounds of subway trains finally come to a halt in the evening that prisoners know they've spent one more night inside the tomb.
Excessive and lethal use of force and other forms of restriction to peaceful assembly, widespread use of torture.
In March, a Senate subcommittee held a hearing about human rights abuses in Venezuela. One expert testified how prisoners in the tomb experience illnesses like vomiting and hallucinations, but are denied proper medical treatment. The extreme conditions have taken a toll on Loren. Today, Yamile found out her only son tried to take his life inside prison. The UN says there were over 3,300 detentions during the protests and more than 150 cases of ill treatment, including torture. They define torture as any act by which severe pain, whether physical or mental, is intentionally inflicted on a person for confession, coercion, or punishment.
Injustamente detuvieron a nuestro hijo.
The parents of 19-year-old Marco Coelho say that is precisely what happened to their son, arrested during a protest and detained for 7 months, accused of conspiring with opposition leader Leopoldo Lopez against the Maduro government. Marco can't legally speak to us, but is showing his face on camera for the first time since his arrest. His parents have agreed to tell us his story.
Marco Aurelio narró que fue envuelto en una goma espuma con tirro y golpeado con extinguidores, bates, palos. Inclusive intentaron hacerle firmar una confesión.
A él inclusive lo rociaron de gasolina, amenazándolo de posiblemente encenderlo.
This is torture. This is cruel, systematic, massive violations of human rights.
Maria Corina Machado is the leading assemblywoman in Venezuela's opposition party.
These students are being pressed, we would say, psychologically tortured in order to produce accusations against another political leader.
The Venezuelan government didn't respond to our repeated requests for interviews. Some students were even placed inside what locals call a dungeon, located here in Petare. High up in the mountains, Petare is considered the largest and most violent slum in the country. So we went to see it for ourselves. Our guide, Councilman Andrés Choleter, promised to take us to the detention cell. The dungeon was heavily protected by the national police, who were documenting our visit.
Here in this tiny place, small place, there were like almost 40 students at the same time without bathroom, any conditions. The family was very difficult for them to visit.
Fusión, FU, fusión.
When police kept pressing us about what we were doing, that was our cue to leave. Whispers of hidden dungeons and tombs is regular lunchtime talk at La Universidad Central, the country's largest public university.
Sabemos que vamos a ser reprimidos, sabemos que nos van a torturar. Nosotros como estudiantes no somos ningunos terroristas.
21-year-old Saidam Rivas was the youngest student leader in prison during the protests.
Tuvimos muchos momentos difíciles, sobre todo porque los primeros 55 días no nos dejaron salir al sol y nuestra habitación no tenía ventana. También ahí había mucha tortura psicológica.
After 132 days in prison, Saidam was released on parole. Like many students, she still has dreams for real change.
Vamos a seguir protestando y vamos a seguir defendiendo. Me puedo poner al frente contigo de todas las luchas que se puedan emprender aquí.
But the future of a new, stronger movement seems very uncertain.
No hay las condiciones para hacerlo.
Y por eso es que, por ejemplo, la entrada de esta universidad, que hace un año estaba llena de manifestantes, ahorita la vemos vacía, ¿correcto?
Sí, hay un miedo generalizado aquí, en la universidad, entre los estudiantes, pero también tenemos un papel en lo que es la lucha por el país.